So this is where we stopped yesterday, right? We spoke about the one drop and Cirque du Soleil. The reason why I wanted to kind of showcase this to you guys is to say, well, nowadays the companies, it's not just about making profits. That's not sufficient, right? You can see a lot of the companies, they are focusing on what is the CSR, or what is the CSR activity that they're doing. In their sustainability report, they have a separate report for sustainability, CSR report as well, and they very clearly state these are the activities that we've done during this time. Okay, and why do you think this is really important nowadays? Any views? Any views as to why this is really important these days?
It reaches out to a new sector of stakeholders, investors who are keen on only investing in companies that may have good morals, good ethics.
Yes, it's not only the shareholders. Again, it's actually it goes across to even your other stakeholders, even the employees. Employees these days, more and more employees are seeking to join companies that actually it's not the money that drives them, but as a company, are you being a good citizen, good corporate citizen, right? These are values that a lot of people cherish, and values are very, very close to their hearts, and they want to see the company that they're working for also have this kind of values and what they're doing. It becomes extremely important, and especially with social media again. This communication is two ways now or more ways, because the company can really discuss as to what they're doing from a social perspective, as well as get a feedback from the recipients, or as well as the others in the society. This brings about many dimensions to that company, because actually your PR is increasing without you spending any direct funding towards PR, right? Because actually you're talking about a different, the profile of the company comes true, of course, but then again, you're doing an activity which is very, very different to what your main core business is. So it becomes very important. And one drop, again, with Cirque du Soleil, if you go to Cirque du Soleil website, you will see the number of things that they're doing. It's amazing, this company, what they do. So we will go through their sustainability report today as well at a high level to showcase what they actually are doing, right? So this is an important report. And these days, just having a financial report is not sufficient. This kind of sustainability reports, CSR reports, are becoming more and more important. Well, what it says, the voice is distorted. Okay, let me see how we can sort this out. Hold on for a second. So I hope now it's okay. 1 second. Yeah, everything's fine. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this particular model is very important, because you can use it in almost all questions, right? So please be familiar with this model. Draw it about 20 times on your own, and then it's easy, you'll remember it, okay? Because Mandelow's matrix is an important model where even whether you can use it in your day-to-day work as well as even in your scenario. So both ways, it is really helpful, because this is about being that business partner, how to engage your stakeholders, and actually first categorizing your stakeholders in a very kind of almost a scientific way to understand, who are the ones who are quite close to you and who have an interest in what you're doing. Now, if you remember, when you're about, when you're about 15, 16, well, your key stakeholders are your parents, right? They're very, very interested in what you're doing. And, well, you need to depend on them for money. So you will tell them all the good things that's going on. So you do a darn very good PR job saying, how to get more funds for all your activities. So you showcase yourself in the best of light. Sometimes, you're not all that smart. You become stubborn or say something else, and your stakeholder is not very happy, and they will reprimand you accordingly, right? So we all remember all these things, when we're about 15, 16, that age group. And then as we grow, you become more independent, you make your money, you become less reliant. Right? But still, the parent, your main stakeholder, is anyway interested whether you're 16, 26, 36, 46, doesn't matter in the age. They are always interested in what you're doing. Now, in this case, your key stakeholders want to be really involved, know what you're doing, and to engage closely. Okay, the reason is if you're not very clear. Now, if you're not clear about your stakeholder, what are the things that can happen? Right? What are the issues that you may face by not being very clear on, what category the stakeholder falls into? Can somebody give me an example? It doesn't have to be Dream Park. It can be any example, even from your day-to-day life. Anyone? So your role, another thing is that you need to remember is, you in your role is a business partner, right? Because you're a finance manager in management accounting, you're managing the management accounting team. Again, your role is really a business partner. So what is a business partner? Business partner is a person who really works with your business and the operations to ensure ensure that you understand what the business is actually into, what they're doing, the operations wise, and also provide the right information. Okay, so that is, hence it becomes quite important. Now, in your case, it also may become very important because you're going into different countries. Now, different cultures have, you need to understand the different cultures as well. So in certain cultures or certain, those roles, they may not think it is, they may not be that interested in what you're doing, but in certain cultures it may differ, right? So I can give you an example. When I was doing a project manager role in one of the Middle Eastern companies, this was many, many years ago. And as a project manager, communication is really important. So, I used to communicate to my stakeholders very regularly on the what's going on with the project, so on and so forth. And however, still I got a escalation, from some of the key people stating, well, she never communicates to us, we don't know what's going on. And I told my boss, that is really strange. I'm sending these guys weekly mails. I really don't understand what they're talking about. But then I realized subsequently, well, what they wanted was not a mail, right, but also a face-to-face discussion. So apart from mail goes through, but you also want a face-to-face discussion. Now, you cannot have a face-to-face discussion with so many people, right? So hence you need to be quite careful and select who are the key players. and have those regular meetings, regular communications with them. Because they are the ones who can make or break your project as well. So similarly, even when it comes to theme parks, even in our business, there are certain stakeholders who will really be interested in what we are doing. So can you tell me some of the stakeholders who will be very, very interested parties? Can you put it in the chat box? Okay, investors, yes, of course, because I've invested money in you and I'm very interested to find out what you're doing with my money. Regulations, yeah. Animal rights groups, for sure, yes, they are very, very interested. Yes, suppliers. Now, be careful. We've put in a lot of these people. I'm asking about one quadrant here. Okay, one quadrant. Who are the ones who will be extremely interested in what we are doing? There are key players. Okay, so let us go to the next slide. Yeah, board of directors. Right, here you go. This is the analysis, right? The chairman, major suppliers of rides. So not all suppliers, they are the major suppliers. Why do you think we need to be very close to our major suppliers? Give me a few reasons. Can you give me some reasons? Why do we need to be very close to our major suppliers of rides? What is the reason? Business continuity in what sense? So I want you guys to talk to me now, because I want somebody to talk with me and say, well, this is what's going on. So let me pick somebody. Niraj, can we have a discussion to say, why would somebody pick the major supplier of rides as a key player? What is the strategic reason behind it?
Major supplier, you mean to say Manga Corporation? Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
why would you take the guys who supply our rides as one of the key players?
Yeah, in order to make sure we get continuous supplies from them at the agreed prices.
Right? But that is an operational activity. Okay. But if I'm looking at it in a strategic point of view, I want these guys to be very close to me. What are the reasons?
You want to have first access to any new
Designed,
rides that are
yes, as
designed.
well as well, you have a vision of where your company wants to go, right? Maybe you're going to come up with different kinds of things because you have that vision and you want to have that business partner to talk through these things and say, guys, this is what I'm planning on doing. This is my vision. This is where I want to be going. This is my roadmap, right? These are the countries that I'm going to be working with so that they are also in sync and will work with you towards your vision, right? Let's look at any airline, right? Let's look at Emirates Airline and let's say, they would definitely have to work with their suppliers very, very closely, right? Whether it is, especially the aircraft manufacturers, they will work with them very closely to say, this is where we are going, what we want to do, okay, etc. Because it's extremely important that the aircraft manufacturers are working with you, providing you the product of where you want to be going, right? And because that product is extremely important to your vision. Now, what else is there? Let's look at be in the airline industry and say, what else is there? So Aircraft is one. What else do you think is important? Again, if you look at
The routes.
sorry, the route, yeah. But something else is suppliers. When I look at the suppliers, food and beverage, right?
Yeah.
It's extremely important. Now, the wines that go in, right, to the aircraft, those wine suppliers, those wineries, they have relationships with these wineries and they purchase well in advance, 5, 10 years, 15 years, well in advance. So you really need to have really need to understand your supplier, right? Because they are providing you something which is of quite strategic in nature. Food is very important. Now, Emirates Airlines prides itself by stating, well, we give you the best food and beverage on an aircraft, right? So they want to have the suppliers working with them to deliver that product, because that is a key differentiator for Emirates. So what about your companies that you worked or you're currently working? Anything that you guys want to share? Because I find it, people do get quite confused in this stakeholder analysis, and it's a very important area for you.
I mean, I could give you a brief example of what we are doing in the cinema industry. We have a portfolio of projects coming up over the next 3 to 5 years. So we have already discussed with our key audiovisual partners and other key equipment partners to have a very good deal for both parties, giving our roadmap to them. So thereby getting a best favorable rate for us.
Yeah. So it's very important, isn't it? The favorable rates, you become partners and then they understand where you're heading. Otherwise, say for example, you don't know where the other party is heading and you just on a transactional basis. So you're working with that party on a transactional basis, which is not an ideal situation. It's important that you build a relationship, the customer as well as supplier relationships are much more than that particular transaction that you're going to be working on. Okay, so that is an important aspect that you need to consider. Let's go to the next slide. So if you look at what are the things that you have to do, focus efforts on this group, project allies, enlist help, evolve in decision making, engage and consult regularly. So you can see you will have to perform these kind of activities with these guys on a regular basis, right? And it is critical you understand who your stakeholders are. Because, for example, if you look at these groups, that the animal rights groups, right? These guys can really make your life miserable. The business can come to a halt because sometimes you as a company are doing the best, but you do not communicate this to the others. And these animal rights groups, they have no clue what you're doing, right? How you're working with the environment, etc. So purely just because you have not communicated with them, as a result, they can, launch some kind of a different agenda, different attack that, it is totally unnecessary. Had you engaged them, have you involved them, right, from the beginning, had those discussions with them, then it becomes a very different conversation because you can be in the really good limelight with these groups. Okay. Then we also have the other stakeholders where we say low power but high interest. Keep informed. Low power but high interest. So the low power group can also at times become high power group, right? How does that happen is when let's say people think these are individuals, they do not have much power, right? But if they come up as a group, if they get together, they become very, very strong groups, right? So the community can be a very strong group. So, don't overlook that, because as a community, as a group, they can become very strong, even though as an individual you may not be a very strong influencer. Now we are going to the pestle issues, the pestles, right? Political, economic, social, technology, environment, and legal. Now these are the key areas, but what I want from you is, for each of these, give me an example from our case study. Okay, so let me have a discussion with somebody on the political scenario. Okay, so Muhammad, can you actually talk to me about the political scenario? What are the things that we should be? Give me, now I have stated tax changes, transfer of profits, politics, blah, blah. So is there anything from a real life perspective or anything that you want to discuss or state here? Muhammad?
Yes, I have a real example.
Okay, brilliant.
Yes, we have a main customer in Iran, and after the political unrest between Iran and most of the US and European countries, the company, the the headquarter decided to stop any transactions and any trade with Iran, and we lost around more than $2 million sales due to that political situation between these countries.
Right. Okay. That is so. How do you think you could have avoided it, or mitigated that situation?
Actually, if we can prepare, sorry, if we can, for example, ask the other markets to stretch their numbers to offset that kind of gap, or trying to find another markets and another opportunities to offset or mitigate this drop of sales, it will help us to achieve the annual target.
Right. Okay. So that is planning, and you trying to kind of anticipate. Well, I'm in this market. If something happens, how are the others going to help us? Right. You brought in another good point to say, well, where is the sales, the revenue distributed amongst across all my geographic locations, right? So in
Yes.
order to understand, well, if your revenue 80% or 90% came from there, this particular country, you're going to have a big problem, right? You would have had to close down.
Yes.
Correct. But if the proportion is much less, then you're in a position to kind of say, well, I'll take it on, I can take this hit because the others would be able to sustain me, right? Now what about our theme park? What can happen to our theme park, our dream park in this case?
Yeah, actually, I know that theme park has a branch in Middle East, and I know
Yes.
Middle East has a lot of political unrest and a lot of economic unrest, and I believe, yeah, the company should consider all of these factors in the strategic plan. Right.
Correct, correct. I mean, but well, if you look at Dubai, we are going into building more theme parks, right? A huge amount of money is being spent there. But yeah, that's a definite thing that you need to consider. We need to, as our dream park, we need to figure out where our revenue is coming from, from different places, and what is the proportion of it, and well, if there is some issue, how can we manage, mitigate it, right? From an economic perspective, let me ask Roland. Roland, can you discuss something with us on from an economic perspective with Dream Park? Now we say exchange rates, that's an issue for us, world economy, interest rates, right? So how will that impact us from a real life situation? Roland, you may need to unmute. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
unmute. Yeah.
Yes,
All
can you hear
right.
me? Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, from an economical perspective, the exchange rate is an issue actually. They have a very high dependency on exchange rate already. They've been suffering from it. It was in the annual report. So that's going to be an additional, issue for them, especially if they expand further to the Far East. From an overall economical, situation, uh, putting an investment, if the growth, for example, economic growth is not forecasted to be, as it used to be before, the return on investment is going to take a very long time before it actually materializes. So there's a high risk in here that they will put the money and invest it into the assets and they will not be able to get their expected returns. So these are the factors that would be considered from an economical perspective, I guess. Growth and whether it's GDP growth or whether it is stability of the exchange rates in various countries.
Right. And also we talk about interest rates, right? So what are the things that what we want to, how do you think, Roland, that we can mitigate them?
The interest rate or the other
All of
factors?
them, all of them. Can you give some examples as to, how can we mitigate these?
Yeah, well, the exchange rate, you can mitigate it in, well, various ways. You can try to hedge as much as possible, and I'm sure they are using that already. But besides hedging, what can be done is that, they can be looking at various supplies to be done in the local currencies. For
So
example, they can
netting off,
talk,
yeah.
yeah, netting off their expenses into the local currencies. And then putting their investments also and borrowing locally rather than borrowing, for example, internationally. If they want to make borrowings rather than borrowing from the UK, maybe they can borrow to purchase their assets in the local countries where they're planning to operate. So that will also help a big chunk of their, liabilities to be also in the local currency rather than just, borrowing from abroad. The other thing that could be done from the interest rate perspective, this is this is also looking forward and trying to assess their borrowings on the long run and find out what is the best time frame for them to be able to borrow money, and arrange accordingly. The other type of stuff that they can do, if there is an economical slump in Europe, then maybe they should maybe consider shifting some of their assets or maybe some of their costs and then putting them in the higher growth areas. For example, if the Middle East and the Far East are growing at a faster rate and there's an economic slump in Europe and they have a lot of exposure in Europe, they can shift some of that to these other areas. Or also they can just simply accept the fact and then review their 5-year plan going forward accordingly, given the set of realities that is at stake. They could just accept it, or if they don't want to accept it, maybe they can insure against some kind of like further slump going forward, which is by trying to buy into some instruments that could hedge, financial instruments that could hedge their positions going forward.
Yeah, that's really good, because I'm now going to be looking at economic and social couple of things here, because the point to world economy, economic slumps, and the cyclical nature of economy, as well as I'm looking at the trends in entertainment, because we're in an industry, we need heavy investment, right? But also this is very fickle, as in, every 2 to 3 years, I need to be changing my rides. Okay, which is going to cost me a lot of money. So what is the way that I can do it in a more creative manner? Is there anything that you can think, Roland, that we can do in a more creative way? Because I want to be, I will be spending a lot of money every 3 years or so minimum, right? And because of this fickle nature of the industry, but again, it's a very expensive activity, and it's linked to the world economy as well as the exchange rates exposure. What do you think that we can be doing here?
Um, Nothing comes to mind right now. I'm sorry. I just cannot
Yeah,
seem to
that's all
be
right.
thinking of
Anybody
something.
else? Anyone else who can talk to us on that? think of industries where we are in quite a bit of we need quite a bit of investment, but also things are changing constantly. What can we do, Matthew?
Instead of buying the rides, we could look at actually leasing them.
Correct. Yes. And also this is quite topical these days because we've got an IFRS that's come out as well. So we will go into that area, in one of our other classes, because that's a key thing that we can do. Why do we need to own something, right? We need to lease it. Can we lease it? Can we work with it in different ways? Right, rather than trying to own this asset. Okay, so we also talk about different cultures, trends in entertainment laws. So what is acceptable in one culture may not be acceptable in another culture. So you got to be aware of that and ensure our activities are, supporting that culture, not going against it, and be also because that will kind of give us either being successful in one country or being a failure, right? So you got to be quite careful of that. We have the different laws. As I said, in Australia, the laws are very, very strict, but not so in certain other countries. Having said that, we have to abide by the laws that the company is, certain regulations, policies. If the company says, yes, these are the policies that we should be having when it comes to health, safety, environment, if it's higher than that of the country that they're operating in, you need to adopt that. So let's go to the next one. Technology, environment, and legal. Now I want to talk about technology. Right, so can we have somebody who would like to talk to me about technology? Imran? What about technology? I think you'll have to unmute, Imran. Yep. So what about technology? How can, technology will play a significant role here, but also we have not said anything. We can't see much in our case study at all.
Yeah, see, the one of the major aspect of this industry or any other business is the data availability and what you get reports or information out of it. The integrated report for the management accounting purposes play a vital role in terms of decision making, in terms of planning, in terms of budgeting and forecasting. So technology plays a very, very vital role in success of any business. There are a lot of advancement nowadays. Social media plays a vital role in terms of getting and engaging customers, bringing new customers on your place, and attracting different demographics.
Right. How would they do it?
Yeah, definitely. They will have to they will have to upgrade their systems, what they are using, how old these are, what is the technological advancement nowadays, and what is the cost involved, and what is the benefit out of it they get it.
Right. So let's look at their financial analysis, right? So you guys have gone through the financials. Where do they spend most amount of their money? Any idea, anyone? Where do they spend most of their money? Niraj, have you done the analysis? Marketing, okay. Eugene says marketing. Anyone else?
Of course, there's a lot of fixed cost.
Okay. So where does the money go mainly? New rides, yes. So is there anything, what I'm looking at is first, I'm looking at where am I spending most of my money, right? And seeing where can we have technology as an enabler? That's the kind of view I'm taking right now, saying how can technology be an enabler? Look at your internal processes as well and say, well, where can the technology come in and really improve your processes? Other things that we can do, we know that we are operating in so many different countries. Have we centralized these activities? Can we do all these activities centrally, payments, all, basically the accounting, etc., etc. Are we doing all these activities, the back office activities centrally? Another thing somebody said was marketing. Now, in marketing, how can we use technology in the marketing front? Any ideas? SEO, okay. Any other strategies? Any other things that people can talk about?
Social media.
Right, Niraj, I just want to find out, how do you guys use social media in the cinema to promote cinema?
Yeah, cinema as well as in this case study. I mean,
Right.
to promote the new rides and all those new activities. And even when entering a new market, you can use social media extensively.
Okay, so social media is basically you're trying to create again a group of people, a community online. That's what you're trying to do. Whether I'm a thrill seeker in Dubai, Asia, or in the US, it really doesn't matter, right? So I'm bringing these people together. So what they're trying to do is, you will actually, thrill seekers, they talk about certain rides. Let's say the guys who come in, you can get them, you yourself as a company do not need to provide the content, right? So how would you get them to go onto social media and write about their experiences? How can you do that? You can have Instagram, you can use Facebook, Snapchat, all these, Pinterest, or you can use all different types of social media to actually promote this, right? But and instead of you having an army of people trying to say, well, this is what we have, right? You shift it strategically to the person who actually experienced it, right? So imagine what if you're in, even if you can actually have this discussion with the people who are manning the rides, and they are the ones, they become your ambassadors to get the guys who are going on to rides before they go on in, and when they're coming out, take photographs, to talk about it a little. I mean, in social media, the good thing is it's not about like writing an essay, right? Within a couple of words, just a comment, right? These are things that just can go viral. Okay, again, I'm using it quite strategically, a tool that we really do not have to spend money on, right? So using the platform is already there, hence I don't need to build it, right? I have nothing, no money goes into the building of it, but I need to come up with a strategy quite clearly. This is the way I'm going to engage, right? So how do you think so you guys, have you seen uh, any ads of Emirates and Jennifer Aniston on YouTube? Have you seen those ads?
Yes.
Right. I mean, you look at the ad, right? How many views? How many views has it got on basically, it went on Facebook, it went on it's of course on YouTube, right? Millions and millions, over 5 million, right, views. Now, if you look at it, it's nothing much, but it's quite powerful the way that they've done it, because they've taken a person who is quite well known, and of course from the States, we are actually currently, Emirates is having issues with the States, right? So they have taken and working with somebody who is from the States and doing it quite strategically. Now, if we look at another thing that Emirates does, is if you go to their Instagram and you look at, who is posting the Instagram, right? Actually, the crew of, at Emirates, there's a crew of about 24,000 people. These crew are the Instagram ambassadors. Wherever they go, they are actually posting things on Instagram. Now, Emirates does not have a team of people who are providing content, a separate team of people. They have got this crew who are doing this, right? And a small picture, a little bit of comment, and there's like 15, 20, 25,000 people who like it, who comment on it. I mean, this is again a platform where the company does not have to pay anything at all. So technology does play a massive role here. I cannot see this much in our case study. Again, technology from a rides perspective, maybe moving away from the rides, but also looking at simulated experiences for people, right? That can be something that they could be looking at. Again, they may have to partner with another company, right? In this case, we look at environment now. Environment, I want someone to talk about environment here. Eugene, anything on environment that you can talk to us about?
Yeah.
Sorry, Eugene, you need to unmute your mic.
Hello?
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay. So there is a lot of opportunity in terms of using renewable energy such as solar energy or wind energy, considering the size of the farm, the size of the parks that they have, and also the location. Some of them, for instance, the park in the Middle East could use a lot of solar energy, while those in Europe and the UK could look at wind energy. They could not only be utilizing that for their own parks, but they could also be supplying it to, back into the grid and generating some kind of revenue out of that.
Yeah, that's right. So again, what are the renewable energies, recycling? Those are things that we can discuss and actually have. It's part of our KPIs, as well as we can publish and measure it, and then as a result, go into a cost reduction strategy as well, right? So again, good points that we can talk about. So I'm just putting you on mute. Right, now I'm going into the next area, the 5 forces, right? So 5 forces, it is, what do you think this industry is? If you look at the 5 forces, is it a very competitive industry that we're in, or is it, well, it's not all that competitive? What do you think? What do you guys think?
I think to answer that question, you've got to look at each marketplace separately. So if you think about what they're doing in the Middle East and what's happening in Dubai, I would say actually it's very competitive. But if you're going into other countries, maybe less so.
Yeah, good point, because different markets play a different role. The way they operate is going to be quite different. If you look at the buyers, the suppliers, as the competitors as well, what sort of an area, what sort of a industry we're working on, it varies from one market to the other. Very good point. So be careful when you're answering it, because you may be don't look at it as one whole industry, throughout the world, but look at it differently. I think we came across this when we looked at the product life cycle as well. We said, certain countries are in the mature state, as well as certain ones are in the growth, right? So that in itself sends you a kind of a message stating where we are. And so basically, easy switch, right? If you look at the power of buyer, then factors decreasing the forces are also there. The power of supplier, well, when it comes to the rides, the guys who provide the rides, they are the ones, they will play a very important role. And it is significant that it is an important thing we identify it and also make them our allies and work with them for our strategy. When we talk about the competitors, I think, Matthew, you're right. I mean, the Middle East, especially in Dubai, there's lots of other things that are there that we have to compete with, right? But if you go to another country, maybe in the Far East, depending, in a growing market, maybe there is not much competition, right? So we are in a very good place to, we are in a very strong position in this point. New entrants, well, is a very, very expensive business to get into. So therefore, it's not, everybody who will get into this kind of business. And also, if you look at substitutes, there are quite a number of substitutes, especially in a market like in the Middle East. But maybe not so in a different market. So be careful when you're answering about 5 forces. Depends on which market. So a question may come, well, they're planning on opening a new park in another location in the Far East, right? So, and they may ask you to analyze it using, a strategic analysis. But if you bring in the 5 forces to do your strategic analysis, it will vary depending on this kind of the factors, environmental factors surrounding you. We spoke about the product life cycle yesterday, and well, we have quite a lot of. Now we go into the SWOTs, right? Strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. So I'd like you to take about 10 minutes now, and I think you guys have done it before, the SWOTs, right? So let me talk. You don't have to do it. Let me not waste time there. It is quite evident. It gives, in the case study, they give a lot of strengths of this company, right? Huge amount of strengths. So in that way, what else can this company do? So we're in this kind of theme park scenario. We have a lot of strengths. We have a lot of customers coming in. We are operating in different parts of the world. So these are the things that we've got. What other opportunities are available to us? Any ideas? Any opportunities, other opportunities? Walid, anything from you?
My side, my voice is not clear today. I have called.
Okay, all right. I'll let you go. How about you, Mohammed?
I think we can invest in other areas like Australia, like US. they have only branches in Europe, Middle East, and they are planning to make one in Asia. And I think there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of opportunities in the other markets like US and Australia and South
Right.
America as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. South America as well. Okay, fine. Any other views? MJ, Muhammad Jade? Any views from you? So Ahmed is saying, let me see what Ahmed is saying. Any other views?
Well, I think it's the opportunity to look at vertical and horizontal integration through the supply chain in order to kind of make the company more profitable, or to look at diversifying or complementary businesses which will extend, I guess, the spend per customer.
Correct. And can you give me an example of a company that's doing something like that? Yeah, said Eugene has said something really good, get into fitness and outdoor activities. Yeah, sorry, Matthew.
Well, I think if you think in the food business, retailers of food often own the farms as well, so they have access to the supply chain of the food. They're often then linked to the packaging businesses for the vertical integration. So actually, by the time it hits the store, they've actually had a bit of profit from the farming, a bit of profit from the manufacturing. They probably got some investment in logistics, so they also had some opportunity there. So the actual net retail profit they make is actually then split across many other parts of the portfolio, which also add value.
Yeah, very good point, because you're saying let's touch the supply chain cycle, in each point and see, how can we play a part here, right? Another thing is, if you look at a company like Virgin, they touch different, so what they're looking, how did they start, where have they gone to? Again, they're working with whatever business that they're in, they're working with mass amount of people, right? So even we are doing the same. We've got masses of people that we're working with. So what are the other products that we can sell them? Okay, what are the other things that we can give them? So that we can build a brand with it as well. Now clothing comes very quickly to my mind, saying this is something that they can offer again to these guys, and because we are trying to create the brand, trying to create that culture. So the guys who have completed some rides, some really scary ones, give them these kind of t-shirts, sell them the t-shirt, of course not for free, like things like that, put it online. This is just an idea about what are the things that we can get our revenue from. Because if I look at this case, the scenario, we've got huge amount of strengths, right? So we should exploit these strengths and see how else can we make money. We shouldn't be just looking at it from, again, look at it saying, well, I can do another theme park, right? Because we are looking at the same product. Okay, so we want to look at what other things that we can get into. I'm looking at kind of an Ansoff matrix here, right? Ansoff matrix, I'm looking at it and saying, how can I actually make more money with my resources that I currently have? Because I got loads of people that I'm working with, right? So you got to think of yourself as an entrepreneur here and look at, how do I know what they're going to be spending on? Again, you will get this information from big data, right? Analyzing data. And what area are you in? You're a management accountant. So you are the one who's got lots of data to analyze, but it depends what questions you ask. Right? Your answers are as powerful as the questions you ask. So it varies. So you got to be very strategic in the kind of questions you ask and then look out for the answer. So the other day, a very good example is the other day, somebody was asking me, well, I want to understand about a certain area, about a credit risk. So when I asked the guy the question as to, and he said, I want information. I said, right, you get information, but what do you want? Well, I want information from all these systems. Okay, so do you know how much information is there? Imagine each one of you guys, like if you look at your ERP system, your procurement system, etc., huge amounts of information. But he really did not know what question to ask. So without knowing what question to ask, you're not going to get a good answer. Right. So you got to know what questions to ask. So that's an important thing. Now let's go to the next one. Weakness, right? High level of debt, loss making in the Middle East, Europe low margins, governance, IT very little information, right? Let's talk about that debt. What can we do with that debt? Is there any way that we can reduce this exposure? Any ideas? Factoring debt, restructure, okay? Any other views? Yeah, IPO.
As Matthew said earlier, we could sell and lease back these assets, and by selling them, we could cover some part of the debts.
Yeah. So that's a good one where we can release, right, some of these assets and actually get into a more operational kind of thing rather than having huge debts. Okay, loss making in the Middle East. Why are they making the losses? Have they told us what is driving those losses? Where is it that it's so expensive in the Middle East? What is driving the losses? We don't know. Okay, so have they discussed that? No information. Yeah, so we need more information about this loss-making scenario in the Middle East. Now, if you look at the Abu Dhabi one, the Ferrari world, I heard that's making losses, right? But at times you will keep that particular company or the brand live just because for strategic reasons. Now, if you're making a loss with Ferrari World, why do you think they have come up with this Dubai huge theme parks that's happening, right? Why do you think they're doing that? Any reason? So it's a similar situation to our dream park where, we've got just next door making a loss, but then I go and invest in a massive complex, and well, I'm expecting to turn into profit. Why would they do that? Okay, Middle East because of weather. Okay.
I think in the Middle East, in Dubai particularly, the parks they're setting up is to try to create almost an Orlando equivalent in the Middle East.
Right.
So people go to Orlando literally just for a week of accessing the various theme parks. Yet in Dubai, in the Middle East, the average tourist only stays for a couple of days, often in transit. So what they're trying to do is offer the experience where people can come for a slightly longer vacation, and therefore the income will be split more across hospitality, retail, tourism, and then they'll have access to a broader range of entertainment parks, which will hopefully cover 3 or 4 days of entertainment.
Yeah, you made a really good point where we're saying, you're going to be here. It's a transient point, and that means the infrastructure is there, and we have the route. So the first thing was, it's of no use you're building a massive park or whatever, the best in the world, if you don't have the means to get here if you don't have the route, right? So again, Etihad, Emirates, all the other airlines are using Dubai as a point where people come in. It's a transient point. They come in there, and there is a lot of people want to stay here. The hotels are there. There's so many other things that you've got. So it is definitely going to be successful. We think so, but it will be quite interesting to find out what this Middle Eastern park, why it's making the losses, right? And if we're going to have parks, and of course in the Middle East most of the time the weather is going to be bad, so how are we going to mitigate that? We can't control the weather, but there are other ways that we can, building the structure, we can do things differently. So maybe, that needs to be considered as well, because it's foolish to think, well, I'm going to build a theme park where only 4 months of the year it's going to be filled, and the rest of the time, nobody will go there because it's so hot. Okay. So these are some of the weaknesses that's been stated. And yeah, lack of related business, not in Middle East, but supporting there. Well, hang on for a second. Now, let's go to opportunities, new locations, operate hotels, new products. It's been suggested maybe alcohol, tobacco, question mark, especially, if you're going to have, in a theme park where there's a lot of rides involved, alcohol doesn't come into play, nor does tobacco come to play, right? So those things we avoid completely when there is certain, a lot of activities are involved. So the values of the companies, also one of the key things they're stating is they are a family oriented, unless they want to go into having a restaurant, a high-end restaurant where completely different to the theme park, but operate restaurants which are high-end where they serve alcohol, tobacco at the restaurant itself, but nothing to do when it comes to the theme park. We look at opportunities to further improve our current operations, and then therefore the efficiencies related to it. The threats are plenty as well. You look at the accidents that can happen, the accidents due to rides, accidents due to other things that can cause issues. So the security issues as well play a significant role here. So whichever market that you're operating in, you need to mention the security issues there, because the company will have to invest quite a lot of money when it comes to security. We spoke about a little bit earlier about Ansoff matrix. What do you want to be doing? The current market, how to penetrate the market. With the existing market, develop new products. So that's what Matthew was talking about as well. You look at new products, and some of the market development strategies, that is existing the product, but we're going into a new market, right? That's what they're currently doing. They're taking their existing product and going into different markets, right? Because in one area they are quite successful. They think, well, let us go and actually copy paste that model somewhere else. Okay, so this is a way of growing as well, and see how the company can grow. Now we look at market penetration, you look at new rides, efficiencies. Again, what you're trying to do is, let's say I'm in the Middle East. Now I'm making a loss in this place. I need to understand why I'm making a loss, right? Is it in the internal efficiencies? Improve them if that's the case. Look at, is it because I have not actually done enough marketing? I need to penetrate the market, bring in more people, link up with different partners, hotels, airlines, right? Because I myself cannot be doing everything. So by linking with these other different parties, you're in a better position to improve your sales. Certainly improve with regards to information technology. Information technology is your friend, your ally. You're gonna need this information technology for everything that you do. It's significantly important. You look at product development, new products, many parks in each complex. Why do we think of only 3? Maybe, because 3 is how they operated for the last from 1962 onwards. Maybe a different thinking, maybe a different smaller parks, or like somebody said, look at it from a fitness angle, have multiple different things. High price specialist activities, host concerts. I think yesterday some of you guys mentioned as well, having different things in your parks. Okay. Market development, currently they are doing that. Overseas expansion, better infrastructure links, business events, and you look at destinations where people are anyway coming to visit, right? So where there is, you will select countries or locations where the government is also extremely important, influential and interested in showcasing their destination. Now, when you, like, for example, if you look at Malaysia, right, you can see adverts on CNN, everywhere else, like, they're promoting Malaysia is a place to be, place in Asia. It's a very prominently advertised. So you can see if this theme park actually linked up with Malaysia, or if you're looking at China, you link up with the states of China that really want to promote their state. Okay, that's the key. Then you link up with these two, and you also have to look at, okay, if they're linking it up, if the state is trying to promote a lot of activities, a lot of things, they want to put their state in the world map, then you'll also see them working with airlines, because that's the other thing. You need people to come in to your destination, and that's a key indicator to state, well, this means this state is gonna boom, right? So then you get into that space. So you work with these people who are in completely different industries. You work with the airlines, you work with certain governments, states who are actually very interested to promote their own state. Okay. Then we look at a purchase of MIMC. Divestment is basically going into new businesses. We look at virtual reality, gaming, and things like that. Any other things that you guys have thought about? Anything else from an Ansoff matrix point of view? Let's go back to our diagram here. Are there any things that you have thought you want to share with us? Either in the chat, or either you guys want to talk to us. Walid, anything from you? Matthew, anything from you?
No, I think we've got this. I think it's trying to think where this may come up in an exam situation, which if you look at the material, one of the obvious questions is going to be that you've been asked to go and look at a new country, and then using the Ansoff matrix, how are you going to apply it to actually assess the viability and feasibility of any new market entrant?
Yeah, and they may not ask you, straight away use the Ansoff matrix, but then you have to kind of use that and PLC and certain other things and say, this is the kind of area that, well, how to analyze that particular market. And do you guys know there's this model called SAFS model? Suitability, acceptability, feasibility, plus sustainability. So any kind of project or initiative you can evaluate based on the SAFS model as well, because it provides that guidance, kind of a very clear guidance as to how to evaluate an area. So yeah, I think let's move away from the Ansoff then. We're coming to the end of this. Methods of growth. How can you grow acquisitions? Now, if you look at acquisitions, joint ventures, or organic growth, now I think the company all along, from 1962 to now, it's kind of an organic growth that is had, right? Now it's kind of primed whether either the company might get taken over or they could take over another company. So the takeover questions are quite popular with the examiner. And this is an area that you need to look at as well. When in a takeover, what are the things that will play a part? What do you think will play a part in a takeover? Either way, either you are going to get taken over or someone else is you're going to take over somebody else. It doesn't matter. There are fundamental principles that you need to look into.
The first has got to be the valuation, isn't it?
Yes, the valuation is one thing. Yes.
And then you have to assess what synergies are, what value creation are, what regulatory blocks they may put in place from sort of mergers, monopolies, etc.
Yeah, and another thing that you need to understand is how it will impact the people, right? So we are looking at it from a technical angle now. Looked at the valuation, looked at the rules, regulations, looking at that's one aspect of it. But then again, you look at the people. We see that people play a significant role in our company, right? So hence, now how does this merger acquisition going to impact our people, right? The change management will play a massive role here, how it's communicated to individuals, and especially when something like this happens, prior to it happening, you may lose a lot of good people. Now you need good people to run this park, right? The success of these parks are the theme parks, are its people. Just having the equipment is not sufficient, right? So these are things, how are we going to manage that? Because there's going to be a huge people issue, right? Of course, either way, the top is going to change, right? So people are going to lose jobs, centralization, then systems, from a systems angle as well, you're going to have a lot of changes taking place. So it's not going to be very smooth. It's going to be a bit ugly before it becomes smooth. But these, of course, from a technical angle, you will look at the valuations as well, and look at what are the other synergies that the two companies will bring in. That you need to consider. Now, acquisitions, joint ventures are very, very quick ways of growing the company. And by doing so, you can either go to a different, a market penetration, or in that Ansoff matrix can be used, as a guide, and you can go into either quadrant, but you need to clearly kind of figure out how your growth strategy is going to be, right? Having a lot of debt is also an issue. Now, how are we going to, with all that kind of debt, how are we going to grow is another question mark. Then somebody's written, we have to consider our resources, shareholders' vision and commitments, geography, economic challenges. Yes, that guidance will be provided in that SAFS model: suitability, acceptability, feasibility, plus sustainability. Those are the 4 areas that you need to look into when you're trying to go into either any kind of project or in a growth strategy. So it's finished. We finished for now. Hold on for a second. So what I would like you guys to do is to take 10 minutes and just write down some of the key issues, 3 key issues, what each one of you think, the major issues that the company will face, and the mitigating, how are we going to mitigate them, right? So just 3 issues and how we're going to mitigate. Elaborate on it. Just don't say, well, it's IT is an issue, right? You need to elaborate a bit. So key things, key strategic issues that the company or the industry is facing and how we're going to mitigate them. Hi guys. So let's see what you have done. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. All right. Matthew, do you want to, so what I'm going to do is I'll ask somebody to present their screen. You're able to present your screen. You can take the screen from me and share the screen with the others, right? I will stop sharing to make things easier. So now what you can do is share your screen, and the others who've already got those points, what Matthew has stated, take them off. And if there's other new things that someone's got written in their presentation, we'll talk about them as well. So Matthew, if you want to start off and if you want to present it.
So I'm actually just working off a phone, so I can't upload.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
I can talk to it though if it's helpful.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay, so it's almost kind of incorporate these. So there's several risks that I've got here in no particular order. One is a weather risk, particularly on how they're looking at some of their resorts. Therefore, how can you change the business model to be open for more days during the course of the year? And so one of the mitigants could be looking at more indoor attractions, whether it's arcade style or theatre experiences, something that's more indoors and not as weather dependent.
So your risk is weather, and how you're going to mitigate is basically saying, well, I'm going to have indoor activities.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else?
The one I've also got is lack of strong brands compared to the international players such as Disney, Warner Brothers. So how do you actually promote the bear, Jolly Bear, to actually have a stronger brand?
Yeah.
And therefore, what can you do to maximize that brand potential into comic series or film or something that actually gives it a wider appeal, so it can compete more with the Disney type or the Warner Brother type?
Yeah. So how do you see yourself mitigating that one?
I would either look to actually introduce more brands that are universally accepted, or look to promote the Jolly Bear brand into other avenues, so it becomes more widely recognized and becomes an international attraction, such as Disney and a Disney character.
How would you do that? So Jolly Bear going to be introduced into new activities,
I would look to license the Jolly Bear to see, okay, can you turn it into a cartoon series? Can it be turned into its own kind of online comic so people can follow the life of Jolly Bear? Can it be licensed into more merchandise that is available internationally rather than just at the parks, just to promote more image awareness?
Right. Yeah. That's pretty good. And another one?
The other one for me would be just the health and safety risk associated with the activities at the theme park.
Mm-hmm.
So there have obviously been tragic accidents in Alton Towers in the UK that resulted in people losing limbs, and therefore I think people are questioning just how far in the pursuit of an adrenaline rush are people prepared to go whilst endangering themselves. So it's trying to mitigate this, that shows that actually health and safety is of paramount importance, that actually everything is undertaken to ensure that the experience is performed with as much risk aversion as possible, and just trying to ensure everybody that before any test or any ride is open, it's tested before being commissioned. And therefore, what he's highlighting is the number of people that can enjoy the ride is far greater, and actually any incidents that do occur are actually minimal. So it's really a case of it's the anomaly rather than the norm. So it's just trying to show people the amount of effort and time that goes into risk assessing rides to ensure that the experience remains safe for people to enjoy.
So basically, what you're saying is communicating to everybody the risk mitigating activities that the company has done, right? Is that what it's to the public? So I just want to find out from anyone else who's got, if you got what Matthew has stated already. Okay, we've already documented that one, but have you guys got anything other than that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my voice is not clear, will be here. Just there will be something called 50% deep part depending on the deep part and revenue. And that basically will be a big risk actually. They're dependent more than 50% on the revenue on one themes. In my opinion, to reduce this one, they need to look at another business. Such as acquiring or other business rather than the themes parts business. Another point, yesterday we discussed why they're using same themes all the around the world. This is even more risky because if anything happens in one park, other park will be destroyed.
Yeah.
So may they look to additional themes park, like additional themes instead of these three themes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good one, because actually we are going into different countries as well, isn't it? Because you can get into what is happening in locally and then promote that type of activity in your theme park rather than trying to saying, okay, this is what we have done in Europe or US, and that's the type of thing that everybody else likes. We don't know really. And also what you mentioned is 50% of revenue coming from one area is really a risk. So how can we diversify? How can we do it if we do it in a different way? Anyone else?
Hello, shall I?
Yeah. If you want to present,
Hello.
please take it. Please take the share it with us. That's fine.
I'll also speak about it.
Right.
One of the risks which I see is the recent retirement of Burl Stanton, which can create some unsettlement between the management team, that how they are going to adopt it. Some people are more pro Burl Stanton and some are against him, so it can impact a lot. So, and the mitigation for this could be to create to make some awareness among to bring them on the same page, to understand them, what are the commercial purposes of this organization in future, and how we are going to make this company more bigger than what it was in the past.
So what you're trying to say here is you're saying, well, you see, when a person, a key person is retiring, I mean, he doesn't retire generally overnight unless something has happened,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a plan for retirement. So when you're doing that planning for retirement, you need to, again, this is change management. Okay,
Yeah.
this is change management. So the organization as well as the key person, the organization needs to say, right, we will bring in this key person, and it could be well, today, it could be somebody else tomorrow, but I'll bring that person in and actually plan a whole exercise of change management, strategizing the communication, etc. Because the first thing that can happen is rumors, right? And then, as you said, people are for and against these guys. So, how does that work? Again, nothing like good communication and stating, well, these are the reasonings. What are we going to do? Where is the company going to go? Sometimes people get really unsettled thinking, oh my God, this guy has been with us for like X amount of years and now this guy is leaving. What's going to happen to me? The first thing is it's all about what's going to happen to me, right? That's the first thing. So they need to make the employees, the organization, as well as even the other stakeholders comfortable, right? And to say, well, nothing's going to change actually just because this person is leaving. But that communication needs to be quite clear, loud and clear. Anything else?
I have one point.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, actually, that's due to the loss in Middle East and also the low margin in Europe. If for Middle East loss, if the company can make indoor activities as mentioned by Matthew, or
Yeah.
if the company can look for the cost reduction, like
Yes.
preparing a zero-based budget for the operating expenses and the overheads, in addition to making a heavily promotion in the date season. That's for Middle East. And for Europe, if they can also look at cost reduction initiatives in addition to the zero-based budget, it will improve the margin for Europe.
Right. Right. Just now something came to my mind when it comes to the Middle East operations. Say, for example, now you need to consider we go through the period of Ramadan, right? So does it mean a period of, X amount, like, a good part of the day, the theme park is going to be closed? How are we going to manage that? Now, that's something that you guys could really score points on, right? Because thinking you need to now operate at different timings. So this is where the culture comes in. If you're operating in Indonesia and things like that, again, a very big Muslim community. If you're in a community like that, you need to fit your operational timings to accommodate a big event like Ramadan. How do you, because are you going to say you're not going to operate during this time? Are you going to say you're going to close shop for 40 days? No, it's not. So this is something that you need to think about and come up with as well. Yeah, someone else?
Yeah, I have one point. Animals in captivity, because they have mentioned that in the last 2 pages, I think.
Yes.
So that could be a key issue.
So this animal is actually causing us, giving us revenue as well as causing us lots of problems, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So as a mitigating factor, we could, as discussed yesterday, I suppose, we could work with activist groups and I mean in improving the marine life.
Correct.
And also we could allocate a budget for annual budget for conservation activities.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I mean, if we are in the long run, if we are looking at moving away from having animals, that's a different story. That's something that you need to think about in a strategic sense, to say, is it worthwhile, right, to have it? Or do you think actually we can have these animals in captivity, but also link it with a science research project? So you link, because the science research projects themselves may have, right? So bring these two things together. Is there a possibility? So then your focus is not, oh, well, I'm going to make X amount of money on this animal, and animal goes through all kinds of, traumas and things like that. So, but in this case, if you're linking with an organization or, that's providing some research and things like that, that might be a way of looking at this activity in a different sense. Or are we going to actually reduce this activity, as in, having animals and the animal park, right? Anything else?
One other issue could be governance.
Okay. So what about governance?
I mean, basically, the golden hello and golden parachute schemes that they have, it is quite awkward, and it is not in the best interest of the company, basically.
Why do you say so? You can debate for and against these two. Why do you say the golden halo and the parachute are not very good? In what context?
Yeah, golden halo. I mean, they say within the first year, the new joinee will get a X amount as joining the company, and after 2 years of performance, if he or she is leaving,
Right.
and she will get 3 years of salaries in one go, and and that person had not contributed to the company. So
what you're saying is, well, you shouldn't be actually giving somebody money if the person has not contributed. So what you're saying is, well, if there is clear KPIs against the director saying, looking at, the contribution that you're making links to the golden parachute, well, that's fine. Yeah. That's what you're saying. That's fine. Otherwise, it's like, why are you giving? I mean, a classic case, something like this happened in Australia with Telstra. The guy, when he left, the CEO, he got $11 million, right? But, there were so many redundancies, so many issues, a reduction in profits, and people went berserk. They thought, these guys they're lunatics. Why are they paying this guy 11 million, right? It's true. Why are you paying somebody money when the person actually made so many other people redundant and actually brought the company down from where it was to where it is now? So very good argument as to state. Now you're going into basically saying, I'm not saying it's a wrong thing. Well, all what I'm saying is, well, there has to be some measurements behind it. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Correct.
Right. Because otherwise it's gonna create a lot of unhappiness and a lot of issues that will come up with the employees as well, because you're looking at these directors, they're getting fancy salaries, and they're looking and saying, for what? The guy in the Middle East, what was he doing? He's got a golden halo, he's got a golden parachute, he or she, and well, Middle East is doing really badly. So how does that work? Yeah. Anybody else?
I think also the composition of the board of directors, some of them they don't look very independent to me, like we had discussed earlier with Adrian, that some of them were in the service or still are in the service of Dream Park. So how neutral would they be?
Mm-hmm.
that's the one point that I had, and the other one would be, there is no retirement of the board by virtue of the corporate code. They need to have 1/3 of the board of directors retire and be up for re-election every year. So that is not being followed in the case of Dream Park.
Okay, so what you're looking at is the independence of NEDs, right?
Yes.
And you're also looking at saying retirement for retirement.
Yes.
So basically, then what would be the mitigating, included in your resolutions? Mitigating factor would be to include.
In terms of mitigation, I think one is period. They must follow the corporate code, and they must have. They should follow by rule that 1/3 of the directors do resign, and we have either fresh directors coming up or be up for re-election. And in terms of having some kind of a code where existing employees or employees who have some kind who rely on Dream Parks for some kind of salary or something are not eligible to be are not eligible as non-executive directors.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, mitigating. We need to have a clear, basically clear governance around this. Because we are not, in a sense, what we're saying is we are not following the proper governance framework that we should follow, right? Because that could, again, lead us to a different state, different area, open the whole company into a lot of risks, because we already got people, even though we say we got a full board of non-executive directors, we've got lots of them there, they are not going to be that unbiased because they have been with the company, they've served for a long time and so on, right? And also the guys are not retiring. There is no definite retirement plans stated. Yeah. Anybody else has got different views?
I think the last one I have is they are highly leveraged in terms of their borrowings are very high. So
right.
That is one of the areas we've already discussed, I think, a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So one of the things that you guys have not mentioned is, let me share my screen. We've got about 5 minutes more, but what I'm going to do is put these things in our share Dropbox, the slide pack. I will go through it very quickly, but I will have some for next time. What I'm going to do is do some questions and answers as well on this, on the issues. So go through it, and I will have it available. You will see some areas where there is blank, there's no content there, and that's because I want to pose questions in those, right? So let me very quickly go through that. So one of the things that's there is, we are working with a lot of people, right? And especially in Europe, US, and places like that, we may see strikes. How are we going to manage that, right? And if you're looking at improving processes, with that comes efficiencies, but even to get in, order to implement these efficiencies, we may have to, let go of certain people, but how are we going to let go of them? What are the plans? That has to be very clear. So this union strikes can also, the people issue can come up when we go into acquisitions and mergers as well. So you could be quite cognizant of this issue. So again, we're looking at people's skills, negotiating, leadership skills coming into play. Lewin's freeze and unfreeze model is related to change management, and of course, the Mandelow's matrix is shareholders, the stakeholders. And we went through the forex issue. Company is exposed to forex. And well, there'll definitely be questions on these because it's quite evident there is money coming from all over the place, expenses going out to all over the world. So how are we going to manage this in a good treasury activities and practices that needs to be followed? We look at the hedging techniques, what can we adapt, how are we going to deal with it from a long-term perspective, from a strategic perspective, right? So I will look at some exam questions for this as well and give them to you. The theories are, well, you guys, I think one of you mentioned netting using current bank account, money market hedges, options. You can also look at these from a pestle analysis perspective, look at the economic impact. So actually using couple of models, couple of techniques, just not on today's risk or whatever it is. You have to look at the future of that particular country, the market, the industry as well. We got many risks that we have to look into. That's in the growth, operational, overseas expansion. How are we going to manage all these kind of risks that we will face? So these are questions. What are the growth risks and how to deal with them? What are the overseas expansion risks that you can say? How we're going to manage them as well? When we are looking at our risks, the models that we can definitely use are the TARA model, COSO, and risk committee, having these things together, because the TARA and the COSO models gives us the framework to work with, right? So instead of just haphazardly putting down risks, you have a clear way of a guide, a model that you can use in order to document then as well as take action on these risks. Then of course the Middle East losses, that's a big issue for us. We don't know much detail about it. Then we also look at transfer pricing because we are operating in different countries. There are different expertise that can be utilized, and from one country to the other, but that means there's transfer pricing that takes place. Now, this is a bit of an issue, right? Transfer pricing, we've got IFRSs linked to this, as well as how this can be an ethical issue that can play a part. So I'm going to pose some questions to you based on this. It's an important area for us, because if I go into, let's say I'm operating in a joint venture scenario, and also in that situation, if I'm doing transfer pricing, and if, for example, me as the operator is...
Anju, sorry,
yes?
Can I ask a quick question? Earlier you mentioned COSO and the risk. What does COSO stand for?
Right. If I'm going to send you, if you're not sure, I'm going to send you more details about the COSO, right? The model. Okay. I'll send you. Yeah, the TARA and the COSO model. I'll send you a bit more detail so that you can get a view. Thanks for raising that. Transfer pricing, as I said, there's accounting related issues there. Funding. Now, funding, of course, there's obvious ones: equity, debt, cost of capital. You need to think of then the cost of capital, dividend policy. This is an article that came up in April, and it talks about they are requiring more funding, and they're going to have a rights issue to fund this park. Okay, and quite an interesting article. I've sent you the link there as well. What about, you know, their working capital, cash flow, the current gearing? These are issues from a cash management point of view. How are you going to do this? You know, we see they're heavily in debt. What's driving that? How are you going to manage? You have to look into some other companies as well in the same industry and say, you know, is it the same in those companies? How are they managing? What are the mitigating factors? All right. So I've written, can we liquidate some assets? But then you need to think of the collateral as well, because they're heavily in debt. Maybe the assets are linked to those debts, which will cause another problem to us. Again, we said the theories that we can use, dividend signaling, a lot of theories related to dividend. Then we look at the age-old NPVs and things like that, weighted average cost of capital, right? And supplier issues, well, related to their labor quality, the contract itself. Well, what about if there is a major issue in the supplier side, right? We've got, say, for example, there might be a question where it say, we're going to open a theme park in the Far East. Date is, everything is fixed, everything is, you know, we are there, and then we're about to bring this equipment, everything from the supplier's plant catches fire or something like that. You know, what are we going to be doing, right? Or else supplier is linked to some child labor or unlawful practices. Well, we are definitely then linked because they are our major supplier. Or how are we going to manage that, right? These are actually real life things that's happened to people, into companies, and that's something we need to look at as well. Okay. You spoke about the governance quite correctly, so there is some issues there I have stated. Then we also looked at health and safety. This will play a major role. You mentioned that. Well, accidents happen. How do you manage? How do you communicate? Then what about pre-issue, like something before something happens? We have to have a team of people, communication strategy, etc., all in place, like the business continuity planning. Okay, how are you going to manage that? It is a key thing, because we can't go like headless chooks when something happens. We can't be running around and saying, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? How are we going to manage the press, etc.? So we can't do that. We should have planned everything in advance. Okay. So, for example, with airlines, there's always they plan, if something happens, if an eventuality this happens, how are we going to manage? Where are the people? There is a team of people who will manage disasters, and the team of people will be from different parts of the organization who come together. So we need to have something like this as well. Of course, new projects. The examiner likes it. In some variant or the other, it will come true. You know, new projects. What are we going to do? Acquisitions, mergers, or we're going into a new thing altogether, right? How would our current staff react? Then that's that surface model. We will bring that out. So when it's a new project, you look at the surface, which will, again, financial, ethical, CSR. Is it aligned to our strategy? Okay, so some of the models that we can use. And I believe this is a final one, ethics and CSR. We have these animals, the community, health and safety. These are key factors that you need to consider. And when it comes to all questions, look at it from an ethical, sustainable, that angle, because that will help you to score marks, because in any question there is an ethical angle. Okay, so you should know your CIMA code of conduct very well. There is like certain, I have included it yesterday, I believe, the code of conduct. You should memorize that. And yeah, that's it for today. So it's just gone 10 minutes over the hour. Anything else?
Anya, can you just explain? So this is obviously there was some confusion yesterday where some of us joined, I guess, the other group. So there's 5 lessons that have been booked for the CFA program. Obviously today is lesson 1. Can you give us an idea of what you're going to cover on lessons 2, 3, 4, and 5, please?
Yeah. So what I want to do is we've looked at the strategic analysis. We've looked at the top issues, right? Now I'm going to be looking at some questions. So the next class will be some questions around these, okay, where I will send you a couple of questions, and also at the class review the answers, and I will give you some questions in class for you to do an answer plan right away. I'll give you 10 minutes for you to write. Okay. The 4th class, I will look at the industry analysis and the risks as well, looking at some of the risks and the industry analysis. And finally, I will look at the financial analysis. So every time I will be including some questions. I just after it or prior to the or during that class. Is that fine? So that's we've got 5 classes covered, and there's 10 hours there. But of course, if you guys want anything else that you feel, well, we're not confident, I want you to explain anything else, I'm happy to do that as well. Because we're finishing off on the 14th, so we have some time from the 14th to your exams. Happy to do that if you think there is something else that you guys want to cover. Is that clear?
Yes, thanks.
Right. Anyone else?